We have everybody. So we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome to the dissertation defense of Tonmoy Hossain. You want to start?
Oh,
At the beginning or the end?
at the beginning.
Okay, I'll hand it over to the advisor.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. So it is the exciting time again that we celebrate a PhD student who completes his journey and is ready to begin his new chapter. It is also, for me at least, a bittersweet time when we say goodbye to a highly valued member and a friend for the past 4 to 5 years. So with that, I'm more than happy to introduce Tonmoy Hossain, who constantly brought laughter, curiosity, and incredible work ethic to our lab for the past few years. So Tonmoy joined UVA in fall 2021 after he completed his undergrad study at the computer science department at the Arsenal.
Wow. Yeah.
He officially joined my lab in actually summer 2022 after his first year rotation at the computer science department. I still vividly remember the first time he came to my office door and told me that his dream publication venue is at CVPR. At that moment, I immediately decided that I need to take this kid because I need to teach him how cool machine learning in medical image analysis actually can be. And hopefully that I fully convinced him after this full journey. So together we explored the, how to investigate the geometric shape representation of complex shapes in the deep learning era and constantly asking questions whether they can meaningfully contribute or advance the modern approaches for vision and imaging understanding. And after 4 years dedicated work, I'm sure Tonmoy has his own answer that he will share with everybody today. So on a personal side, I would say that I'm saying Tonmoy grown from a student, like everybody here, to a trusted colleague. So he is highly motivated, self-driven, and very responsible. So he kept actually pushing his boundaries and limitations to overcome every possible challenges in the research as possible. And he would constantly asking questions. What can I do the next? And so, as he is going to, begin his very exciting journey with Eugenio, who is also on the call right now, I really wish him continued success. And his loudest laughter will be always missed in our lab. So now let's welcome Tonmoy.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, so hello everyone. So today I'm gonna talk about my thesis, which is like learning to unify complex geometric shape with image texture representation for healthcare applications. So before that, like attendees from the online, can someone verify can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So deep learning has fundamentally changed the way how we analyze medical images. From detecting tumors to predicting patient outcomes, neural networks now handle such complex tasks that were once impossible to automate or even crazier to imagine. By combining multimodal MRI, CT, and PET scans together, these intelligent models now go far beyond what human eyes can even see. So now the question becomes, how do these deep networks work and what kind of tasks do they perform? So state-of-the-art deep networks like take volumetric or slice-wise like image scan and like to learn different kind of like image texture representation that performs various image analysis tasks, including but not limited to classification, segmentation, generation, or tracking. So while powerful, these models often rely heavily on local textures other than capturing global features, which can lead to anatomically inaccurate or incorrect results. This limitation is evident in both of these cases where, for example, at the left, you can see that adding a very small amount of adversarial perturbation can trick the deep network to misidentify or misclassifying objects. Or the same issue like can cause a generative model to produce brain MRI images, which might look physically plausible but does not preserve the anatomical structures or topological integrity. So ultimately, we can say that like this state-of-the-art deep networks do not fully understand complex anatomical structures, which is essential for clinical accuracy. So what are these like anatomical shapes that we're talking about that we want to capture to improve the performance of image analysis tasks? So anatomical shape has a long history of aiding various image analysis tasks as it like plays an important role in the processing of like human visual information. When we look at different kind of organs like brain or like a cardiac or different kind of like 3D like critical structures, their three-dimensional geometry not only carries like visual integrity, but also tells us that whether this like subject has disease or not. For example, the curvature of the ventricle, or maybe the morphology of the myocardial, or maybe the shape of the hippocampus. These aren't just only visual features, they are biomarkers that directly influence the diagnostic accuracy. So what makes this particularly powerful is that how this kind of anatomical shapes can be translated and integrated into the downstream clinical task for different kind of disease diagnosis. So what's the progress of this like inclusion of anatomical shapes in the like deep networks? So the significance of the anatomy focused like representation is clearly reflected over the past few years. So where shape-based models like synthesis like not only ensures topological integrity, but also like gives us a substantial amount of like improvement in the classification accuracy. For example, you can see that a 10-point leap in the classification performance when we are training on classification data, which is like Google Quick Draw datasets. So analyzing all of this like advantages of developing anatomy focused like models over solely relying on texture based representations. So we must shift toward a shape aware paradigm that integrates global geometry to not only ensure clinical reliability, but also to achieve like superior diagnostic accuracy. So to this end, the primary like motivation of this thesis or the statement of this thesis is that I want to develop a set of advanced deep frameworks to learn or understand robust and complex shape representations from dense image data and integrate them into the current paradigm of image appearance and texture learning. So this is the outline that I'm going to talk about today. So we're going to start about talking about the background part, where I'm going to talk about different kind of like geometric shapes and their representations, and what kind of geometric shapes I'm going to use to like structure all of these foremes. Then I'm going to continue the discussion, presenting my four interesting works, and then we're going to wrap it out with presenting some of the interesting future work and directions. So geometric shapes. So current shape representation can be broadly categorized into two types. The first one is the coarse representations, where the structural geometry can be encoded through landmark, mesh, binary, or medial axis. So while such coarse representation is widely adopted, these approaches focuses only on the boundary surfaces, which fails to capture the complex interior geometric information that is very much critical for like clinical diagnosis. On the other hand, we do have like deformable representations that is providing highly detailed shape information, the motion changes, capturing the subtle geometric variations for disease diagnosis or patient-specific analysis. So motivated by all this clinical potential of such robust deformation-based representation, all of my works in this thesis will be grounded upon or like focusing on like considering deformation-based shape representation as the primary source of geometric shape information. So like we're talking about like deformable shape. So how can we get this from the network by optimization? So let's look at this example. So for example, you have been provided with this pair of images, which is like defined as template and target. And the image deformation describes the spatial transformation that maps one image to the other and can be like represented by a deformation field that specifies the displacement at each point. So extending this idea like to population level studies on group-wise images, we can like get the deformation or deformable shape of each of the images by choosing one image as the template and aligning all the other images within the group to that template to get the deformations phi of each of the images. So we can get this deformation by optimizing this like energy function, which is a combination of these two terms. First one is the regularizer term, And this regularizer term ensures the similarity between the pair of images, which is the template and target, from which we want to get the deformation. And the second term is the regularizer, which ensures the smoothness of the deformation that we sampled or predicted. So to ensure the smoothness, we might want to go for like the prominent LDDMM, time-dependent LDDMM algorithm, or just go for like stationary velocity field or SVF, which assumes constant flow over time. So yeah, so let's first talk about the very first work that I have done, which is the multimodal geometric augmentation. So despite all of this like computational advances that I'm talking about, the deformation-based representations, so these networks have some very critical limitations in their methodological formulations and their learning capabilities. So for example, one of the very critical limitation by the time when we're like developing the models is that if you are training your model with a multimodal data and you assume that your distribution is unimodal. So if you assume that your generative model distribution is unimodal and sample transformation from that unimodal distribution, the topology will gonna be broken. Like there's a possibility. Or maybe there's another possibility is that like you just change the object like structure, which changes the class. If you see that sampling transformation changing the class digit 1 to digit 7. So now the research question is that can we augment images where it's being necessary? So by learning the multimodal distribution from the underlying data, given data, of object deformation from the data that we are working on. So to deal with this, we want to shift from one mode to multiple modes. To do that, like we proposed MAGOG, which defines to be multimodal geometric augmentation, that for the first time, like develop a deep network that learns the augmenting transformation or sample transformation in the multimodal latent space of geometric deformation. So let's begin the development of the methodology. So let's consider this encoder-decoder based model, which represents as parameterized by beta and theta, that takes input images J and speeds out the velocity of V. So we formulate the generative process in the latent deformation space X, where the joint distribution of J, V, and X can be factorized as the three different kind of distribution with their multiplication. So now the standard approach by the time when we're working this model is that they assume the unimodal latent distribution is unimodal. If you see the prior, it's just a Gaussian distribution. So the problem of like assuming this whole like Gaussian distribution unimodal, we saw the examples that sampling from such a prior may not respect the topological integrity or smoothness or like produce transformation that fall outside of the groups. So to deal with this, instead of assuming the unimodality, we design a Gaussian mixture prior over the latent deformation space. So basically what we did is that replace the unimodal distribution with a multimodal distribution. And to do that, we just like adopted mixture of Gaussians. So explicitly, we model this like prior over like introducing a component selector Z drawn from a multinomial distribution C, where C is the number of components or can be referred to as number of class with a mixing probability of pi. So now the prior over like X given Z and epsilon can be like defined as a Gaussian distribution, which is the learnable means mu and learnable means sigma raised to the power ZC. So this is the multimodality. So before we are like trying to learn one mu and one sigma, here now we are trying to learn multiple mu, multiple sigma based on the number of classes or component that we're working on. So after that, like we get the X using the multimodal prior, we then use a decoder parameterized by theta to speed out the velocity, different kind of transformations. And we put a Gaussian prior on the V to ensure the smoothness of the transformation, as you can see in the likelihood. So finally, after that, we model the observation likelihood of J given velocity, input image, and the noise variance with a Gaussian noise model. So that captures how well the deformed template matches to the input images. So and this is our whole like generative model that is a combination of these 5 different terms. So if you see the network loss, the first term is the image similarity term, and the second one ensures the smoothness of the topological integrity. And the third, fourth, and fifth term like is responsible for the evidence lower bound, which is being like used for the multimodality. And after defining the multimodal geometry augmentation loss, we can jointly train our like new type of like augmentation model with any kind of like image analysis tasks, whether it can be classification or segmentation. So you can alternate between these 2 tasks, like training one and another. So let's look at some of the results. So let's say you have been provided with this template image and the group, and then using the template image, you sample those kind of like different transformation, group-wise transformation, and you use those transformation to deform your template image to get this augmented images. So you can see the variations like the shape variability that we are getting from those sample transformations. And we further evaluate the quality of those sample transformation by evaluating determinant of Jacobian metric. So which is being told which is telling us that if there is any kind of folding or crossing in those sample transformation, then your augmented image will gonna be like tear apart, or there will gonna be hole, or those kind of artifacts that we don't want to have like when we synthesize images. So we don't have any kind of such negative values in the determinant of Jacobian. So coming to the point of quantitative evaluation. So first of all, we synthesize the data by using synthesizing transformation and augmenting images. So we trained like different kind of segmentation network with those augmented images and tried to evaluate the performance. So first of all, we did an ablation, cross-validation study to evaluate the impact of the multimodality, where unimodal model versus the multimodal model. And you can see that compared to the unimodal model, when we tried to see the latent space as unimodal, all the multimodal is kind of comparatively like giving us improved performance under different kind of segmentation backbones. And also at the right, you can see that under different kind of like limited ground truth data, like 10% and 50%, and augmenting it 3 times, comparing to all the other baselines like random and unimodal augmentation, our model gives like pretty much good improvement. And we also have shown that the dice scores, the segmentation dice score of the different 15 anatomies here, and you can see that across all the different kind of anatomical structures, our model is achieving good performance, specifically in the small structures like left and right putamen. And this is also evident in the visualization, where the segmentation dice is having a good alignment with the ground truth when being trained on synthesized images from our model. So basically, in the first frame, we try to learn the underlying multimodal distributions of group-wise data to synthesize different kind of transformations that improve the downstream performance of different kind of image analysis tasks. But here's the point. In clinical settings, we often deal with images where the images have very difficult or very subtle minimal changes. For example, if you do have one healthy brain MRI, one MCI brain MRI, then the subtle differences is very small. So now the question becomes, can we actually, or these models can actually learn those very subtle feature differences when we're working with such difficult to visualize images? So let's look at the current limitations. So existing models like encoder-decoder based models is very much popular for image classification. So if you take the latent deformation space features and train a classifier, so it does very good. So but the problem is that if you see this 2 data points, so they're kind of predicting falsely, or they are not correctly classifying, because if you see the deformation is very subtle, you can't actually capture those very meticulous information with the current deformation network. So meaning is that they struggle to capture those fine-grained voxel level feature differences when you're working with those very critical healthy MCIs and disease images. Another important aspect, but critical, is that when you train such encoder-decoder based model, you trained with paired images, template image need to be paired with the input images, and then you pass those pairwise images to the encoder-decoder to get the deformation. If you think about the test time, you need to remember the template image to get the deformation, which is an impractical burden when you think about clinical deployability or reliability. So the research question is that, can we learn this fine-grained distinctive geometric shape features without requiring any kind of template or reference image at the test time? So what we want to investigate, that there's a very popular mechanism called contrastive. We try to adopt this in our mechanism. So to handle this, we introduce CORAL, which represents contrastive representation learning of deformable shapes, that uniquely develops a representation learning framework to learn those contrastive shape features that captures those fine-grained feature differences while removing the requirement of template at the test time. So to begin the methodological development, so first of all, this is a encoder-decoder based similar type of network. So instead of using the template image with the paired image, and then passing it to the encoder, what we did is that we only pass the input image and use the template image to just only guide the loss function. So if at the test time, if you need the latent features Z, you just pass the input image and then get the latent representation. So it's just a very simple trick that we try to investigate in this work. And later, to capture those fine-grained feature differences, we inject or developed a contrastive, supervised contrastive mechanism in the latent space. So what it does is that you do have this supervised contrastive mechanism in the latent space. These are the positive sample set that is coming from the same class, and these are the candidate sample sets that is coming from all the other classes other than the anchors. So this is the supervised contrastive loss, which is a combination of the similarity between the anchor and positive and the anchor and all the other candidate state. And these are the two similarity terms that we want to optimize. So we want to maximize the similarity between the anchor with the positives, while we want to minimize all the similarity between anchor to all the other candidate samples. So the fraction we're gonna be maximized, and then that's how we are minimizing the contrastive supervised loss. So this is the whole coral network loss. First term is the shape learning loss, and the second term is weighted by the Beta parameter, which represents the supervised contrastive objective. So this is the whole shape learning network, and after that we can train another type of network called IE. This is intensity based feature extractor that can be ResNet, that can be VGNet, that can be any kind of texture based network, and then integrate the latent representation that is coming from the intensity space and the geometric space together to train a boosted classifier. So coming to the experimental results part. So first of all, we experimented about the template dependency. So W/O is our model where we don't need any kind of template at the test time. So you might want to see that, okay, if we require any kind of template or train any kind of model that is required to template, which is W/temp, so what's the performance? So comparing to the template required model, our model achieves pretty similar velocity or deformation with very negligible amount of differences in between the predicted outcomes. Talking about the ablation study, we also tried to evaluate the impact of introducing supervised contrastive loss and the template learning. As you can see that our model, which is the last row, which does not require any kind of template at the test time and supervised with the supervised contrastive objective, it's giving us good improvement. Yeah. And after that, we also tried to investigate the importance of injecting texture features with the shape features. So at the left, as you can see that compared to one of the prominent model, which is called Geo6, which requires template, but does not have any kind of contrastive objective. Compared to that baseline, our model is actually gaining good improvement over all the classes which defines to be cognitively healthy or early or late MCI or Alzheimer's disease. And at the right, you can see that classifying on 2D MRIs under different intensity texture backbones like ResNet to CompNex, our model is giving good improvement, and that is only because of the contrastive, supervised contrastive objective that we're having from the model. So the finding is that integrating shape features boosted the classifier performance, and our model is outperforming by a comparatively good margin. So I'm gonna just take a little bit break, if you have any kind of quick clarification question. Okay, yeah, then I'm gonna continue. So in the second aim, what we did that we tried to learn representation which of the similar shape features can we attract those similar shape features and repeal those different kind of shape representation using contrastive mechanism. But after solving this problem, we found another very interesting problem, which is let's say, what about the images are coming from different hospitals or different imaging site or different ages that can have female or male kind of thing. So now an even more interesting challenge arises where the data is coming from the multiple environments or multiple data distribution. So now the question is that can this develop models learn representation that are invariant to all of those data environment? So now look at the look at this figure. So let's say we have been training this model where on classifying different kind of brain MRIs, where the healthy subjects happen to be young and the disease subjects happen to be old. And in this testing setup, which is the IID testing, which is that now if we test on a mixed age population, the model still performs reasonably well because the distribution kind of matches. But what about if we try to find out, like, let's say if another kind of like testing scenario where the disease subject and the healthy subject age got flipped. So like now the healthy subjects are old and the disease subjects are young. So the model is completely failing. So it's not predicting the correct like labels, as you can see. So if we want to find out the reason, one possible explanation is that the model that we tried to train on is kind of learned the age. So picked up like on age-related brain changes rather than the actual disease that we want to like classify. So it is not actually, one possible reason is that it is not actually learning those texture features that need to be learned. So the problem is that it's leveraging the statistical correlation between the image features and target labels. So to kind of deal with this problem, we introduce invariant shape representation learning, or ISRL, that for the first time develop like invariant representation learning in the latent space of in an integrated latent space, which is parameterized by intensity and texture representations. So our model have like two modules. The first one is the geometric shape learning network, and the second one is the invariant classification network. So the geometric shape learning network is pretty similar how we optimize like the template based or group-wise images. It's a similar, it's a optimization, which is a combination of image similarity term and the smoothness term. And after that, we took similarly to the corals, the previous network, we took the latent like feature representation from the shape network and like fuse it with the texture representations and train a classifier. And this classification loss is a straightforward negative log likelihood, which is also defined to be as the empirical raw like risk minimization, or ERM term. But the problem of like using this like empirical like risk minimization or negative log likelihood, as we've been said, that it might not capture the actual invariant features that we wanted to capture. So to handle this, one of the very like cool and prominent papers in 2019, the authors tried to develop invariant risk minimization. So where the objective was that we want to find the invariant features phi, and as well as we want to also optimize the classifier W, so that the classifier is performing good in each of those data environments that we are having. But this is a very complex bi-level optimization problem, as you might like expect that you need to get the good phi as well as W. So it's a very complex bi-level optimization problem. To solve this, the authors of that paper like presented the first version of the IRM, where they first tried to calculate the like ERM loss or environment-wise loss, R1, R2, and R3. So after that, they tried to introduce a penalty term where by using a prob, which is a W, they tried to see that what's the gradient loss of each of this like different kind of classifier by setting that like gradient to 1. So by using the prob W, setting it to 1, they tried to find the gradient of each of this environment. If the gradient of each of this environment is low, that is meaning that, okay, we like captured those like invariant features that we wanted to capture. So by like following this like new penalty term, we inject this penalty term with the ERM loss RE, and that is our invariant classifier loss. And we can like jointly like train this shape representation learning and invariant classifier together by alternating between the network. So coming to the experiment result. So first of all, we try to investigate it in the classification settings. So compared to some of the like popular domain generalization model like Coral, GNN, our model is gaining good improvement over different ResNet and VGGNet network. And we also tried to like investigate the impact of introducing invariant mechanism and the geometric shape features. And as you can see that compared to the non-invariant models, which is ERM-based models, our model or the invariant-based model is doing good improvement over all the experimental data sets. Also, the geometric shape features is also giving us a pretty much 4 to 5 points of improvement across all the classification tasks. We also try to like see that, okay, what's the like latent like GradCam of like interpretability. To investigate the interpretability, we also try to visualize the GradCam of each of this train network. And as you can see that our model ISRL captures those exact like shape representations from the input image, and also predicting the correct label that is being associated with the image. So the discussion can be either our framework is the first framework to learn the invariant representation in a joint image and geometric shape space. But let me mention is that like while we try to like investigate or adapted the IRM framework, so this is not our primary contribution. So you can choose different kind of other like invariant learning model like IRM games or VIRM, like whatever you want. So our model like is agnostic to the choice of invariant learning model. So there are other critical and challenging like problem that is still remains that we can try to deal with where the IRM requires prior knowledge to like of the confounding variable like using which we are like partitioning the environments. And also other than like having one confounding variable, we can have multiple confounding variable that can affect the network performance. So after like getting this like invariant representation, so if we want to like develop or employ all of this like three aims into the clinical settings, one of the very first assumption is that there's no significant appearance changes in the images, whatever we are like, okay, working with. For example, all the images need to be deformed version to one another. So this is a very critical problem because at the like clinical settings, there might be a like scenario where you are being confronted with this appearance changes like tumors. Then you can't align the healthy brain to disease brain with the current models, and that will going to break the topological integrity of the transformations that you have been predicted. Also, this appearance changes is very hard to segment. As you can see, the boundary is very difficult to be deleted, whether it's like lesions or some others. So the challenge is that existing models is failing to preserve the topological representation when they're being like confronted with appearance changes like tumors or lesions. To handle that, we introduce disentangled deformation learning that is developed an uncertainty-guided deformation learning model that is robust to large appearance changes. So to have that, we first try to develop this like encoder model where this pair of images is given as input, and then we train a decoder like appearance changes based decoder model that is not only gonna giving us the like segmentation, but also is giving the uncertainty map. And like based on a Kendall and Gall paper from the NeurIPS 2017, we adopted the heteroscedastic aleatoric uncertainty, which is a combination of this two terms. And after that, we jointly train another like shape-based kind of like decoder like model, which is giving us the velocity. So we have our predicted segmentation and uncertainty map. What we did is that we removed that thing. We removed the velocities where we have some kind of like predicted segmentation or predicted tumor and uncertainty by using this like new regularizer weight. We also tried to remove this appearance changes from the source image and target image when we are trying to like get the complete loss functions, which is the similarity between the like moving and fixed image and the regularizer. So after that, we also further introduced like contrastive shape mechanism to further like repel the appearance and shape changes and attract those representations motivated by our choral work. And we just introduced another loss term, which is a contrastive supervised contrastive loss. So coming to the result section. So first of all, we trained our model on the BRATS dataset because the requirement is that you need to have the tumor segmentation as well as some kind of landmarks. So BRATS dataset we trained on, and we also tested our model on the BRATS as well as like benchmark, like this kind of benchmark dataset which called BRATS rig that is being popularly used to evaluate this kind of like appearance changes. So if you see that compared to, and these two matrices are the most important matrix, which is the target registration error, because you want to find the anatomical like distances of the deformed moving with the fixed landmark points. And also compared, we can see that introducing the uncertainty with the contrastive part is very much giving us good improvement in terms of registration, like target registration error and achieving negative determinant of Jacobian. Also, we try to compare our model with some of the other baseline and compare to the voxel morph or CLAP iron. Our model is actually aligning the healthy regions very well by overlooking the like appearance changes or tumor regions that we don't want to deform. So in summary, like in my PhD, I try to like investigate like all of this like 4 works where first we try to learn the multimodal latent geometric distribution from the underlying like group-wise data, and then we try to continue those learning distribution to learning fine-grained voxel level feature differences using the coral network. After that, we try to investigate another challenge where we try to capture the invariant representation learning, and then we end up with all of this thing by introducing an uncertainty guided deformation under appearance change network. So some of the interesting feature work that I am planning to do is that the first one is that we just only synthesize transformations. We didn't consider about the texture that is being missing when in the Magog model that we have been talking about. So can we actually train a model that jointly synthesize the transformation as well as texture or any other kind of like appearance changes, like to maybe like develop a more controllable deep network? After that, another significant problem that is relevant to precise disease diagnosis is that a subject is changing from healthy to early MCI or late MCI or Alzheimer's. And one of the critical point is that can we actually identify the decision boundary when the subject is changing from one class to another? For example, healthy to early MCI or early MCI to late MCI. If we can identify it early, then we can like start the diagnosis process very, very earlier. So the second research question is that can we identify those time point where subject is transitioning from one state to another? Thirdly, after learning this like precise like the representations, we want to deal with the problem of having like when we're having multimodal image representation. So all of those current model is being trained on T1 modality of data, but we do have some other interesting and complementary modality of data like T2 weighted MRI or FLAIR or some others. So can we actually extract those texture features or shape features from each of this complementary modality and train a unified representation learning model together to learn a mixture of multimodal representation? And after that, we're going to just wrap out. I'm planning to wrap out like by introducing brain foundation models where we might have like scanners, like images from multiple scanners or multiple hospitals or multimodal images with maybe text report also. So can we actually like take all of this like different kind of like feature representation and also the population level shape changes that we are having from our like unique shape representation model together to train a robust neuroimage foundation model that go beyond the conventional frameworks by incorporating all of this robust representation. So now the most interesting part is the acknowledgement part. So this is my advisor, as all of you know. So like if you see the email that I dig it out like in 2021 when she offered me. So like it say that like, okay, I have recommended like your application to the CS department. So I can tell you that like it's kind of the life-changing moment for me, and I am like forever grateful to her. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. So like she helped me like learning what is research, how to do research, and how to find problems. And you should not like run after publications. Number of publication you need to like actually solve critical research problem that is benefit for the healthcare community. So yeah, I'm not going to talk more. Otherwise, I can talk like all the day, and like it will not going to stop. And I'm thankful to all my committee members like Tom Fletcher, Professor Acton, Professor Jundong Lee, and Chun Yuan, who provides continuous support like throughout the process. So I'm grateful to all of them. And I also like I'm grateful and thankful to all my lab members. Jerry is the first person who helped me a lot in setting all of my problems. Like I don't know that like how can like this be done. I just like call him and then he will gonna set up a meeting and help me immediately. Zores helped me a lot, who is now in MathWorks. Like he helped me a lot in the invariant learning project. Niveta and Nelly are the sweet soul of the lab, and Dev and Rishabh, I can't like thank him enough like for criticizing all of my works that helped me to polish my work further. So yeah, I'm very much grateful to all of you guys. And then also the lab members from like Professor Fletcher's lab and Scott's lab, like Inju, Tyler, Shin, Aman, Jonathan, Shomi, and Samart. And also my small collaborator list. I don't have that much of collaborator in my PhD. So Jing is right now is currently working as an assistant professor at the case Western Reserve University. So I worked with him and Professor Lee in the invariant learning project. And Professor Yangfeng Ji is also I worked with one of the project, and Vijay Kundu was like the collaborator of my very first like published ISV work. And also I want to thank my GE Healthcare intern team like Bruno, Shravan, Faye, Ashok, and Mustafizur. So I also wanted to thank some of my mentees. One of them is working in Ally Studios. And the other two are very much talented from my undergrad university, one of which published a work at the same venue that I published the invariant shape representation learning work. And Atikur is like, also I have submitted a work with Mikai. So we did most of the experiments over the Google Colab. So they're very much like involved and motivated to do all of this works. So thanks to you guys like for bringing all of this like works to the table. So acknowledgement, definitely computer science department and all the stuffs, because like I can't thank enough like Jay, Marian, or maybe Zach or Sandhya, who was like helping me through all the process, and also the Connect for all the coffee and free food that I got like each and every other day, like and night maybe, and also the Association of Bangladeshi Students Group, our like Bangladeshi like association. So we organized like 2 events each of the years, and it was a pretty like joyful moment for me, like to being part of this community. And the CSGSG, where I served as a co-chair and also the graduate program representative for 3 years. So it's I'm thankful to all the members of the CSGSG and all of them. And mentors, now like even more interesting part. So first of all, Professor Kazi Kalpoma. So he is my undergraduate professor from my university. So she visited me twice in USA, and she didn't go anywhere but came to my place, stayed at my place, cooked for us, and then like keep the food like, okay, keep this, you're gonna feel some homely flavor. So like she's like not just a like professor, she is also like a guardian angel for me. And Shujan, like he is there. So he is like my undergraduate faculty, and I was also a colleague. Now he's also a like roommate and also my kind of junior at UVA. But like yeah, I can't like ask like I can thank him enough like for everything he has done and still is doing for me. And definitely Mir Tafsir Naim, he is a like Huawei fellow and right now a PhD candidate at the University of Alberta. So he is like a brotherly figure for me. So one example can be he just like gave his like credit card with the password. You go and apply. You do all the stuff. So you don't need to like tell me that okay, you need to report me or anything. So he was there like he was also my undergraduate faculty and then colleague, and then we applied like for the PhD same time. So like I'm grateful to all of these people, and without like these people, I can't be here where I'm standing right now. And then friends, starting with Samiha Shimi. So she's the person who reviewed my SOP more than 20 times, like statement of purpose. She didn't bother tell me that this is wrong, this is brutal, this you can't say. So, and also like still we're good friends. And Najmu Saqib, so he is the first guy who like gave me a ride from Charlottesville Airport to like Richmond Airport to Charlottesville, and from then he was the continuous and consistent support throughout the time. And Shafat, he is my first roommate, and I can't like go anywhere else other than like talking to him if I have any kind of problem. And yeah. And to all of these beautiful, nice soul people, so starting from maybe Nivi, Taj, Shafat, Samit, and all the other people like Zawad, Tanvir Bhaya, Ruman Bhaya, Oishi, and all the other peoples, and also like who are presented, who I couldn't like give the picture here. I am forever grateful to all of them who keeps joyful moments, who brings joyful moments and try to entertain me all the time. So we really have a blast full of time when I am here. I was here at Charlottesville and I'm still here. So thankful to all of you guys. So you make the journey a little bit easier. So now the last part and the most important part, my family. So my mom, so who helped me, who stayed like all the night long when I was maybe preparing for quizzes and all the exams. So this lady was the constant support to all of my research contribution or academic contribution or where I am today. So I'm the very first generation kid right now. So from my family or nobody else has come to this far, and most of the contribution goes to my mom and my dad, who is the pillar of the family, always supported me no matter where I go or what I do. And then my cool bro, like younger brother, so who I miss a lot each and every other day. He's right now an undergraduate student. So I just wanted to say that I love you, bro. And and my auntie, so he's like a second mom for me, and his kid and his wife and her kid and his wife, and this is our small family. So I am thankful to all of you guys, and I am forever grateful. I am whatever I am right now is because of all of you, and thank you. I just want to conclude the presentation with this. Thanks. Yeah.
Fortunately, after those acknowledgements, we have no time for questions. Yeah.